for 200,000 cycles, before stars like Sol had even finished forming their second generation of planets. The Vyrreth Dominion had already learned to hunt across the dark seams of the galaxy. They weren't scavengers. They weren't opportunists. They were, by the declaration of every species unfortunate enough to cross their path, the apex predators of the Orion Spur. Their sleek obsidian star vessels navigated through dust clouds and nebulae with the silent purpose of predators stalking their prey. Across systems, their reputation grew until it became a myth, then a warning, then a certainty. If the Vyrreth marked a species as a target, that species did not survive. Their society centered on conquest, not for resources alone, but for proof of dominance. Each successful hunt established the hierarchy among the Vyrreth houses. Stories of their triumphs passed from generation to generation in the form of pulsating crystal hololiths where every hunted species' DNA sequence was embedded as a trophy. But that was before they encountered humans. Beginning, the strange signal, Admiral Tsrath of the 7th Conquering Spire stood poised on the command platform of the dreadship Vyrreth. Its prow resembled a serrated blade designed as much for psychological effect as for atmospheric piercing. Around him, sub-commanders monitored the faint blue signal emanating from a middling system in a quiet arm of the galaxy. Admiral, Sub-Commander Hreel hissed, its voice a harmonic vibration rather than a singular tone. The emerging species has broadcast a series of mathematical patterns, primitive but deliberate. Tsrath's mandibles flexed in amusement. And technologically, warpless, gravity-bound. Their world is rich in metals, water, carbon structures, and easy acquisition. The hololith hovering above the command platform shifted into focus. It displayed Earth as seen through spectral scans, clouds swirling over continents, oceans glimmering under sunlight. A young world, Tsrath muttered, unblooded, unscarred, the ideal training ground. For a moment, he lingered on the small details. The way the planet teemed with electromagnetic chatter, billions of independent signals broadcasting from the surface in chaotic frequency patterns. The Vyrreth had observed many species before conquest, but few produced so much noise. Are they stealthless by nature? Tsrath asked, possibly unaware of higher predators. Hreel answered. Or perhaps simply naive. Tsrath laughed, a sharp clicking sound. Then let us educate them, the first approach. The Vyrreth descended into the solar system like a dark omen. When they passed the orbit of Mars, they detected no defenses, no interception fleets, no orbital resistance. But what they did detect troubled even the seasoned Predator fleet. Human space probes, old ones, non-functional ones, newer ones. Some still broadcasting, not weapons but eyes. Probes sent not out of fear but out of curiosity. And that was when Admiral Tsrath experienced something he had not felt in decades: confusion. Why does a primitive species explore before securing their homeworld? He muttered. Hreel analyzed quickly. Perhaps ambition, or desperation, or recklessness, Tsrath said. They entered Earth orbit without issue. They prepared their standard intimidation broadcast, the one that had caused entire species to surrender within minutes of first contact. They deployed the Vyrreth Mark of Dominion into the upper atmosphere, a shimmering crimson sigil that distorted local ionization fields. But before they could transmit their demand for surrender, something unexpected happened. The humans noticed them instantly, not with the frantic chaos of prey, but with the swift coordination of a species used to threats. Multiple frequency bands crackled to life, satellites pivoted, military networks scrambled. Within minutes, Earth's governments unified their communication channels. Rapid response, Hreel said, with what seemed like grudging respect, faster than expected. Then the humans sent a message, not begging, not bargaining. It was simple. Identify yourselves. Tsrath's mandibles twitched. They do not know fear, but he was wrong. They did. They simply acted despite it. Middle, the unpredictable species, the first mistake. When Tsrath initiated the intimidation broadcast, every Vyrreth on the command platform prepared for the predictable reaction: mass panic, desperate pleas, abrupt global collapse. Instead, humanity responded with laughter, real laughter, Clips from movies, television shows, online videos of humans mocking alien invasions flooded every channel. The Vyrreth had prepared to psychologically dismantle a frightened prey species. They had not prepared to become a meme. All across the globe, humans joked about the edgy space triangles, and the Vyrreth Mark of Dominion became known as the world's biggest neon fidget spinner. To a species that lived and breathed the art of terror, it was nothing short of bewildering. "Why do they react this way?" Creel asked, mandibles trembling. Srath stared at the cascading feeds. They convert fear into humor, instantly. A dangerous talent. The second mistake, when intimidation failed, Srath authorized a precision strike, non-lethal but visible. A demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority. A thin beam of dark matter compression struck the Sahara, carving a perfect spiral crater large enough to be visible from orbit. But humans did not respond with fear, they responded with explanations. Thousands of scientists immediately published papers analyzing the strike. Engineers reverse-modeled its energy signatures. Amateur physics enthusiasts built simulation models of Vyrreth weaponry within hours. Humans didn't collapse under the demonstration. They studied it. "No other species has ever tried to understand our weapons," Creel whispered in disbelief. "This is not prey behavior." Srath felt a low rumble of unease. They adapt quickly, too quickly. He didn't realize how quickly until the Vyrreth ground forces landed. The third mistake. The 1st Battalion touched down in a remote region of northern Canada. They expected scattered resistance, panicked civilians, or perhaps a few primitive vehicles. What they encountered instead was a group of humans in thick winter jackets, holding cups of hot chocolate. One waved at them cheerfully. "Hey, you guys lost? Need directions?" The Vyrreth soldiers aimed their weapons, unsure whether this was a trap or genuine confusion. It turned out to be neither. Humans, inexplicably, simply walked right up to the armored soldiers, studying them with childlike fascination. One even tapped on a Vyrreth leg plate and asked, "Is this 3D printed?" The Vyrreth reported, back to the dreadship. "Humans do not respect territorial displays. They fear nothing, requesting clarity on their psychological structure." Clarity did not come. The 4th mistake. Srath authorized a controlled conflict scenario. The Vyrreth Battalion advanced on a small nearby town with stun weapons, intended to incapacitate, not kill. But before they could even reach the perimeter, they encountered an impenetrable defense system, not built by governments, not designed by militaries, but by teenagers. A group of local high schoolers had coordinated using drones, hobbyist sensors, improvised EMP devices, and software scripts downloaded from forums. Their system took down half the Vyrreth communications before the battalion even realized they were under attack. Creel replayed the footage in shock. "They are inventing warfare strategies we have never encountered." Srath watched as humans, children by Vyrreth standards, adapted faster than any species he'd known. "Have we misclassified them?" he wondered aloud. The turning point. When the battalion attempted a retreat, a human convoy arrived, unmarked trucks filled with volunteers carrying makeshift supplies. They weren't soldiers, they weren't government-issued responders. They were everybody. Farmers, mechanics, programmers, retirees, teenagers with homemade devices, a man wearing a superhero costume just in case. They didn't attack. They offered help to the stranded Vyrreth unit. Food, heat sources, tools. One human, wrapped in 3 scarves and a comically large winter coat, approached the Vyrreth captain and held out a steaming thermal mug. "You look cold," the Vyrreth captain whispered into the ship's channel, voice trembling. "Admiral, these beings, these humans, they extend assistance to enemies. They are unpredictable, illogical, dangerous." Srath found himself gripping the command railing. "What kind of species offers comfort to an invading force?" Creel replied with a grim rattle. "One that does not fear death." And that was the moment the Vyrreth realized something terrifying. Humanity was not fearless because they were strong. They were fearless because they were impossible to predict. The human way of war. The next day, Earth's nations finally launched a coordinated defense. But it wasn't traditional warfare. Human hackers broke into Vyrreth frequency bands and replaced their tactical readouts with cooking tutorials. Human engineers broadcast schematics for their own spacecraft, challenging the Vyrreth to fight us in a fair race. Human psychologists uploaded calming messages to Vyrreth moral channels, confusing troops about whether they were invaders or invited guests. Human gamers reverse-engineered Vyrreth battlefield AI and beat it in simulated battles with strategies no military tactician would ever consider. Human artists created propaganda that convinced some Vyrreth soldiers that Earth's coffee was a sacred galactic treasure. Human Reddit got involved. That alone nearly undid the invasion. Within 3 days, half the Vyrreth forces were incapacitated from overstimulation, confusion, or the overwhelming kindness and chaos of Earth's population. Srath had hunted 100 species. He had never been this outmatched, not in strength, not in weapons, but in pure, unfiltered unpredictability, ending the predator's surrender, the negotiation. Srath knew the hunt had failed, but protocol demanded a final confrontation. He descended to Earth alone. He expected a contingent of human generals, strategists, and elite soldiers. Instead, he was met by a middle-aged woman in a cardigan, holding a thermos. "Hello, dear," she said warmly. "You must be the alien in charge." Srath blinked. "I am Admiral Srath, sovereign hunter of—" "I brought you soup." He accepted the thermos out of instinctive politeness. The woman continued, "Now, you and your friends caused a bit of a mess, but we can sort it out. You hungry? Cold? Need a place to sit?" Srath stared at her, completely disarmed. Why are you helping me?" "Well," she said, "you look like someone who's had a very long week." He had no defense against such compassion. In Vyrreth society, mercy was a weakness. On Earth, it was a weapon, and they wielded it well. The withdrawal. Humanity did not demand surrender. They demanded cooperation. Scientists asked to study Vyrreth materials. Engineers wanted to trade knowledge. Artists begged for permission to paint Vyrreth starships. One small town held a bake sale for the alien troops stranded in their woods. The Vyrreth Dominion withdrew not because they were defeated by force, but because they could no longer comprehend the nature of their opponent. Srath's final report to the Dominion High Council became legendary. Humans do not react within any known parameters. They fear, yet charge forward. They laugh at annihilation. They fight with logic and chaos, science and nonsense, compassion and ruthlessness. They treat invaders as neighbors and neighbors as family. This species is not prey. They are something new, something unwritable, something terrifying. Epilogue, a new reputation. For centuries afterward, the Vyrreth avoided Earth, not out of shame, not out of defeat, but out of a deep instinctive recognition. There were predators across the galaxy. There were conquerors, tyrants, even monsters. But humans were something far more unsettling. A species that did not break. A species that turned fear into strength. A species that welcomed danger with open arms and a sarcastic remark. The Vyrreth had been fearless galactic predators until they met humans, and in every star chart produced by the Dominion after their retreat, one system always held a unique warning label.